Hello. Hello, everybody. I am here and got so much fun to show you. Hello. Hello, Miss Kathy. How are you, sweetheart? Hello. Let's see all who's here. And yes, Bonnie, have to use my glasses now. That is so funny. Night and day. Hello, Hetty Hun. Aw, this is great. Oh, there's Miss Bonnie and Hetty and Sonia and Alberta. Oh, that's wonderful. And Alberta, I do need you to send me your address, please. And just use the Our Time to Quilt email at twc.com. And my email is working fine now, so I should be able to get it. So hello, and Sonia's here, Marcia, and all of you that I sent prize packages to. I sent most of them. I've still got some yet to mail, but I will be emailing you with the tracking number, okay? And they're due to arrive by Wednesday, I think, at the last. So the ones that I don't have mailed yet, Diane 57, Cheryl Lemon, Linda McCollum, Charlene Fisser, and Teresa Louise. I love quilting, or I quilt too. If she comes on here today, please tell her that I need to get her address. I don't even have her email. So otherwise, I think we're pretty well set. And poor Hetty, I feel so bad. I haven't checked the email, Hetty, to see if you answered me. But I went to the post office and found that to mail a $5 ironing board cover to Miss Hetty in South Africa was going to be over $26. So I kind of went, well, I think I'll find something different to do. So it makes me so sad, but I think I'm going to have to limit prizes to within the U.S. And I'm sorry, but that's a lot of money. So, and I am on a budget, but I'm sorry. Laura, hi, sweetie. Now, I thought more people won prizes than I had listed. So some of you, I might have to say, hey, did you win a prize, or how did we miss it? Teresa Jukovic is here. So, hi, everybody. I don't want to miss anybody because I love y'all all being here. So, and always speak up. Maria D. Hello, Maria. How are you? Okay, and if I ever miss your name, speak up and say, hey, you missed me. And I won't mind at all. I'll be happy that I got to acknowledge you. And Laura, love our Laura. Up there is Teresa Louise, I quilt too. Yes, because I don't even have your email. I have no way of contacting you except on here. So I'm glad you're on here today because I've got it ready. I just don't have an address. So... oh, thank you. I will work up something special for you, Miss Hattie. And Charlene Lawson is here. Oh, Stephen, Lisa, hi, from Florida. We have quite a few people from Florida, so that's wonderful, sweetie. Well, very nice to meet you. We're a very friendly group. We love getting together. In fact, yesterday we had a Jitsi get-together. And Jitsi's kind of like a Zoom, but there's no time limit. And so we get on and sew together, and it's so much fun. Bonnie and Miss Susan. Up there is Linda. That's okay, you Miss Thursday, Miss Linda. You don't worry. But Susan Smith and Bonnie, they are the sit and stitch queens. And I just am lucky if I get to pop in and say hi here and there. But yep, I can see Diane 57, and I don't have your package mailed yet, but I have your address, so I'm not worried about that. But okay, guys, and let me write it again one more time just to make sure. Our time to quilt. Whoops. Now, what happened that? Okay, Our Time to Quilt. And I have my computer sitting up on a crate. And so I'm trying to type like this. And I'm not good at typing that way. So I apologize. Nadine is here. Yay, Nadine. So you're new to all this. Oh, well, I assume that you're the Lisa, not the Steven, but it doesn't matter. We love everybody. But welcome to this. And you can always watch this after. So if you can't be here or you can't be here the full time, it's no problem. It's up on YouTube. Sometimes it doesn't show up till the next day. But we also have a groups IO. And once I've recognized your name twice, then you can send me an email at that same Our Time to Quilt, and I'll send you an invitation to our groups IO. Our groups IO, it's like a Yahoo group, and we can exchange photos and patterns, and we do the Jitsi sew in together. And it's just a lot of fun. Like Miss Hetty, if she wants to join our groups IO, I know Miss Hetty now, and she just can let me know through Our Time to Quilt, and I'll send her an invitation. I have no idea what IO is. But the Yahoo site shut down. So we were like, oh, where do we go? Where do we go to find another site to really enjoy ourselves? And it's just nice because we've all become friends. And if I say, well, I want to be able to know who you are or recognize you at least twice, it's just because we really share our life, and we want to make sure that you truly are a quilter, an art lover, that that you're not somebody just in up to no good. But we've had such a great time. We've never had a problem in the group. But we post pictures of our families and all of that. So it's just fun. And then when Susan, in fact, we're going to have another sit and stitch next week on the 24th. So that's a lot of fun. And the link to that is in the messages in the groups IO. And our group is called Our Time to Quilt, whether it's here or there. And it's fun. It's fun. We've become a community, a family, so to speak. And it's been wonderful. I don't think I could have gotten through the pandemic without it. So, hi, hon. Nope, got to put my glasses. Isn't that terrible? When you see me doing that. So, oh, that'd be great. Yes, please, Hetty, because we really enjoy each other. Not all of us want or can get to a group. It's like a virtual quilt guild is what we are. But we support any kind of crafting, any kind of arts. It's just celebrating life, not just a quilt group. So I love it. Oh, okay. Kathleen Champ, are you on our groups IO? Because I definitely want to make sure that you've been invited, and I'll send one to Hetty. And okay. Now that Steve, Lisa, what I want you to do is to send me an email. It hid your email address because it doesn't want you to give out information that's too personal. So that's why I give you my email address and you email me. So if you can please go back and get my email address and then copy and paste that into an email. And just remember, it's pretty easy to remember. Our Time to Quilt at TWC, TimeWarnerCable.com, TWC.com. So that's okay, honey. We always want to protect all of our ladies that are on here. Adele is here. This is great. Charlene Lawson, you did send yours. I'm pretty sure I had your address and sent that out. But the other Charlene that starts with the P, I'm hoping she comes on today. If she does, tell her I need to get her address. But don't give me any email or address on here. Send me an email. That way we protect your privacy. Because, it's important. It is important. So, but we'll take care of you here. But oh, thank you, Bonnie, for explaining it to them. It's so nice because instead of only getting to chat here, we can chat anytime we want. And it's really helpful if you have a question about something. How do I do this? Does anyone have this? We can really just be a community. And I love that. Okay. All right. Are there any other questions? I've got so much to show you today. I'm so excited. I have to say one thing. When I had that bad cataract, a couple things surprised me now this week. Now that I've had this cataract removed and a nice, fresh artificial lens implanted. Number one, my house was dirtier than I thought. You can't see all those little things when your vision's 20/80, right? And now it's 20/20, so I can see everything. In fact, don't do anything sneaky here. I'll catch it. I'll be able to see you. But number two, I have a whole lot more wrinkles than I remember. And all of that stuff. It's like, wait a minute. I wish we could kind of do selective sight where, okay, I don't have to see my figure when I'm changing clothes, and I don't have to see all these wrinkles and these sags. It's like, come on. So be careful when you have your cataract removed, because all of a sudden you get to see it all. So anyway, and now my vision is 20/20. So I'm such a happy girl. Okay, here we go. Oh, everybody, any questions? Thank you, Miss Diane. Yes, thank you very much. I was trying to get to it and it disappeared, so I'm very happy. Thank you, thank you. So don't send me any addresses or any email addresses on here. Please send. I tell you what, that Diane 57 is fast. I'm going to write it one more time. Our time to quilt@twc.com. Okay. All right, and I'm looking forward to having fun today. I don't really have any time schedule, so I'm going to stay and enjoy. If you have to leave, that's okay. You can catch up on it later. Family and friends are always more important, although we're friends here, but we can visit just about any time. All right. So today, I've got a pattern to share with you. If you're a member of our group, you already know because I put it on the site. I have made some really interesting buttons, and I've got a little history to share with you on how have people over the test of time, over time, how have they closed their fabric? And I have just a brief little overview of that. And because remember, I used to be a costumer at a historic museum in the state of Maryland, the birthplace of Maryland. And so I had to learn, how did people in the 17th century, which is the 1600s, how did they make and wear their clothing? And so I've always been fascinated with that. In fact, let me go get something really quickly. Hold on. I forgot to get this before I came in. Hold on. Just a second. Okay. Here it is. All right. So it has been years, but I met this woman, and her name was Janet Arnold, and she was like the premier clothing historian ever. She was affiliated with the Victoria and Albert Museum in England. She's English. And I mean, I met her. I picked her up at the airport. She came to speak to our museum. Fascinating woman. But this is her book, and this was my Bible when I did historic costuming. And so I'm just so glad that I had that chance to meet her and to learn, because you know what? These things are important. I'll give you a little example. We are so used to zippers and buttons that we don't realize that they're kind of a modern invention. So here we go. Look here. See the handmade eyelets? Because the main, for years, thousands of years, the main way to keep your clothing on was by strings and tying. Now, here are, I didn't think to look into sooner. Oh, these are wonderful. These are like monkey paw knots. Have you ever heard, if you do any sailing or yachting, but that's how they would make a button. And see the shank? That was made with linen thread. And that's how they made early buttons. But they tried tying things together. And little tiny eyelets, they didn't have the metal ones we do now. They did get them at a certain point. And I think I've told some of you, here is a hand-done buttonhole on a man's suit. Okay? I made the most fancy suit I ever made was a suit of the era of 1686. And that was Charles II reign when he came back, because his dad was murdered in England, Charles I, during the English Civil War in 1649. And he came back and he ushered in opulence. And so I made this suit for one of our interpreters and the actor on site. I had to hand do 86 buttonholes. And let me tell you, I earned my carpal tunnel surgery, let me tell you. But anyway, I'll have to look through this book and find some more examples to share with you, because it's absolutely fascinating to know how was clothing made in years gone by. And understand that back then, you were lucky if you had one or two outfits. And used clothes sellers were big time. I don't know if you've ever seen some of the photos with the people with the hats stacked up, 15, 20 hats stacked high. And because cloth was very valuable. So we're so lucky now. You know, we throw away our clothes, and we have clothes for different seasons. And they just had layers. So I'm going to double check. Are y'all buffering? It must be on your end because my web strength is good. But let me see. Oh, Marcia, how wonderful. Yes, clothing is amazing. Oh, yes, I'll round up some pictures, even of me in costume. But yes, I will definitely do that. I will find for next week, I will find photos of my time, and my children were little and I would dress them up and we'd be on site. So museum photos. Okay. I love that. I will find some of that. Okay. So anyway, the reason I'm bringing up all of this is because today I'm going to show you two ways of making closures. I'm calling them, they're buttons. But when you think about it, if you want to look it up on Google, you would say clothing closures, because you can't just say, what kind of buttons did they have? Because that won't get you to what you need to know. But most of the time, everything was either linen or wool. They didn't have cotton in the time period I was working in the 17th century. And that would have come from India, and they didn't quite have that yet. And it would have been horribly expensive. I mean, probably as precious as silk. So it was linen or wool. And often, if they wanted to make something like a button, they would take a piece of linen scrap fabric and stuff it with whatever they had to stuff it with, and then use that wrapping with the linen thread to make a button. Otherwise, they just made linen ties. You know, they would double fold it and stitch it down and everything by hand. So, what I'm going to show you, which is always the fun part, is when they did start making buttons. Now, the early buttons would have been leather, wood, metal. There were some bronze buttons as soon as man learned how to work with bronze. But what I'm going to show you are two things today. It's a woven button on a wooden mold, and I'm going to show you Dorset buttons. And it's so funny. Where is my blue Dorset button? I have one that, oh no. Don't tell me I didn't quite manage to bring it down. Oh, I had a blue button almost all the way made, and now I don't see it. I think I didn't get it down here. Oh, poo. I can always show you that next week. But what I'll just start into this so I can show you. And then after this, we'll talk about what to do with crumb blocks. Once you've made some crumb quilting fabric, what do you do with it? I've got an idea. So, all right, what this is this is a wooden button. Now, I want to say this. They had access to wooden buttons. You know, they could carve a wooden button. But one of the problems with wooden buttons is if you try to wash it, it would swell up and crack. So that's a tricky thing. This is one of the methods that they use to make a button from wood so that it would, number one, protect the button, keep it from swelling and cracking too much. And here this is. Now, I made this one this week because I knew I wanted to show you. So I made this one. Now it's a little bit large. I made this one too. And I used DNC floss, or is it DMC? Boy, I need to work on my fingernails. I've been busy. But anyway, here is the wooden button. Now, I have one in progress so I can show you how I made that. And I'm just going to tell you, yes, it takes a bit of time. And, okay, let me get this to show you. All right, you take the wooden button form, okay? And the wooden button is right here, okay? You take that wooden button and you start wrapping it from inside to wrap and wrap. So you get a heavy needle that's not too sharp, something that can hold a wide piece of yarn, and you go down through the middle and you come up and you wrap all around the wooden ball. So now you've got the vertical wrappings. So then what you're going to do is you're going to come in here. And this is a metallic DNC floss. And what you're going to do is you use a contrasting color or the same color. And you're going to come in and this one, okay, let's see. I'm going to come in and that way I would be over, under, okay. Hold on one second. You go over and under. So I come in here and this little cluster, I go over, then I come up under this little cluster, and you're just weaving. You're weaving an horizontal thread. You're weaving a horizontal thread. Mark's going to go for a bike ride. I'm so glad. All right, and you try to keep these spaced out. But see, they're little clumps like this. Whoops, I'm sorry. better to be on the camera. But they're little, multiple strands. So that's here. They've kind of gotten mussed up, but that's what I'm trying to do. So then I come here like this, and I pull. I kind of know how many are involved in that strand. I pull these over, then I go under the next probably 6 strands. I treat the strands as one layer. And all I do is go around this, going over and under, over and under. So got this little group. Now I'm going to come under this next little group. Okay, it's easier when I get to this side. So as soon as I get there, if you're a little confused right now, as soon as I get over there, you'll be able to tell. All right. So I just keep going over and under, just like basket weaving. Over and under. And now especially with the metallic thread, I put the silicone, the thread heaven kind of stuff on it, or beeswax, because that's a lot of rubbing on the thread. The brown part was metallic too, because I wanted to see what that would, and these are the DMC metallics. And here we go. Here we go. Here's a label, sweetie. Thank you for asking. DMC. And I've had this for ages, so I wish I could tell you something about it, but I don't know. But hopefully that helps. And they're very metallic, so they're a little more brittle than the regular. You could use pearl cotton. I wouldn't use something too thin, because, oh my gosh, you would be working forever to try to get the buildup. But that's the brown went this way. Now I'm taking the metallic red and going around, because I figured if I'm going to make it, I want it to be really showy. All right, so I'm trying to separate these threads. Okay, now I'm going to come under this one. So you just go over and under, over and under. Hold on, I'm almost to the part where it'll make it easy for you to see. You don't want to tug on metallic thread too much, because it is a little touchy. But you could just get any wooden bead, do this with this is just regular DMC floss, and I use all 6 strands, so I don't have to be working myself to death. I did add 1 strand of silver thread to the dark blue floss. I used a light blue for the vertical wraps, and then the weaving I used a darker blue, and I added just a piece of like metallic sewing thread to it. So you don't have to make the whole thing metallic. You could just add a thread. This is just lighter pink for the wraps and darker pink for the weaving. So, and if you ever had a special outfit to make, and you can use whatever size bead you make determines what size the button is. Okay, now I'm getting to the easy part, so hang in there with me just a second. It is a little fussy because, it's kind of tight and you're trying to keep everything snug on a round, hard surface. But I think it's kind of fun, okay? And then you just, as you go around, make sure that row of weaving stitching stays up nice and snug. All right, but here I go. So now I'm going to go over that one, under this one. You just go over and under. Okay, here. The metallic is more fussy, but y'all know, anybody that's ever sewn with metallic thread knows that it's tricky. In fact, the early metallics, were miserable to sew on. But as you can see, okay, this is two separate groups. And I'm going over this one and under this one. And I do the same thing every time, over and under, so I never have to stop and think what I should do. So I'm going over this one and under this one. And see, with these separated, I'm hoping that helps and makes it a little easier for you. And you would always like to think you could do more than one stitch at a time, but on a circular hard wooden bead, you can't. I mean, unless you had a bendable needle. But you just keep doing this, and you go around and around and around, and I think you'll end up with something very pretty. So you could always make these for a special outfit, and just depending on the thread you use and the size wooden ball. Now, I made these on the larger ones because that way you could see what I'm doing. But you could do them as small as you think you could work, you could do. So here are the three that I've done. And I think they're right pretty. And you could even do the same thing on an oval bead. They don't have to be round. All right, so now this is wooden bead wrapping or weaving, and that would be an early form. And all of that wrapping with the thread gives it interest, you can make it match the outfit, but also it's to protect the wooden bead from constant swelling and shrinking and cracking. So, all right, so now we've got that. The next thing, let me bring the camera back up. The next thing I'm going to show you, when I was on vacation, I watched a Quilting Arts with Catherine Redford, and she was making these things called Dorset buttons. And I'm like, Dorset buttons? What is a Dorset button? And when she showed it, I said, oh my gosh. Earlier in my life, I had a sweater that had Dorset buttons on it. And it's really, really interesting because Dorset is a county in England. And the women started making these buttons because back then it was, what kind of button could you have? They didn't have plastic. This was back in the 1800s. They didn't have plastic. And what kind of button could you make that could be washed? Because the horn, they could kind of, but they might get a little gummy. Tortoise shell, you had to be careful with. When we think of tortoise shell now and it's plastic, but it was real tortoise shell back then. Wooden buttons would swell and crack. Metal buttons would rust. So, you were kind of limited on what you could use. And often what people would use is just a straight pin and pin their clothes together. That can't be very comfortable. So anyway, this county in Dorset, somebody came up with taking rings of horn. Oh, and shell was another material early buttons were made with. And shell was good because you could wash it and stuff. But if you didn't live near a coast where you could get shell buttons, you were kind of, you were stymied. But they would use horn like off sheep. And I guess you slice it. And once you've cleaned out the inside of the horn and slice it, you end up with rings. And here is what I got this picture from Catherine Redford's site. And look at the tiny ones. She makes buttons, but she also makes some that are so decorative. Look at this. Look at the basket ones. Aren't they beautiful? So don't forget, here's the spelling of her name, Catherine Redford. And look her up. Then when I kept trying to see what she was doing, but I was having a hard time seeing what she was doing. So I looked on YouTube, and there's a wonderful woman named Gina B. Her website is Gina with a G, Gina B Silkworks. Look her up, and she has a tutorial on what she calls the Dorset cartwheel button. Dorset cartwheel button. And you know what? Oh, hi, Inger. It's so good to see you. And this is important because these are home arts that if we don't remember, they'll be lost forever. And these are fun little things we can do and just pass along so that we don't lose this. What happened is the women in the town of Dorset made these buttons, and they actually kept their families fed and warm making these buttons. Unfortunately, when the Industrial Revolution hit England, they were out of work because then buttons could be made by machine easily and quickly and cheaply. And so it just like that, some of the migration happened then because these women could no longer take care of their families. So let me show you. All right. Now, wish I had brought that blue button down because I had it about finished. But okay, what you're going to do with this is you start. I was telling some people I went to Joann's and I wanted to get curtain rings. And you could use metal if you want, whatever size ring. This is a 1-inch ring. Now, these are a little bit maybe big for buttons, but until I have practiced a lot, I'm not going to be able to do something smaller. I would like to get some that are bigger because I love how Catherine Redford makes them into brooches. So I'm going to take this blue DMC floss. I'm going to have to start from the beginning. And let me get this. I want to find it's great if you can use a tapestry needle because they're pretty dull, but they're wide and, all of that. So that's good. And I haven't even totally finished one, but I did several. And I've already figured out how to put some bling on it. Because you know me, if I can make it pretty fancy, then I'm happy. All right. So if you want to do this, and I'm just going to use the DMC floss because it's handy. It's easy to use if I can get it untangled from my finger. All right. So you probably have a ring somewhere in your house in a junk drawer. All right. You want 4 yards of floss. This is the only part that's kind of a pain, is trying to manage 4 yards of floss. Wow, it's going to take all of this. All right, all that's left on this one is going to take. So, and it has a tangle in it, and I don't think I see good enough to handle tangles. Now, if I were Miss Bonnie or Miss Sonia, I would have this on a nice little card, especially because this is probably 20-year-old floss, and it's just been shoved in a baggie. So in Debland, I'm not organized like Miss Bonnie and Miss Sonia, but I have a feeling if I keep doing this, I'm going to learn to be. So let me try to get this tangle loose. I apologize for this. All right. I'm just trying to, that is one thing I'm going to show you what I do. With the floss, it is, oh, you're back. Yay. Yes, they did use the Dorset wool. They used the sheep horns for the mold. They call them molds, the button molds, and then they used wool and a wool yarn that would have come together really well. And you understand, when you see this, it's such an easy process that children could do it, the whole family could do it. And that helps support the money's taking in from farming or fishing, anything like that they did. And it really kept Dorset going for a good number of years. So to me, I love learning women's or domestic arts or anything like that because these women were working hard to take care of their families. And if I can keep that going, then I will. And that's why I'm trying to learn bob and lace making, even though, boy, that's a little finicky for Deb. Bonnie, where are you when I need you, girlfriend? I'm trying to untangle this, and I think I'm making it worse. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to slide the knot down. Y'all don't want to see me untangling this all day. I'm going to slide that tangle down as far as I can and cut it, and it's okay. It's going to be a little shorter than it should be, but because it takes 4 yards. And, you know, do like I did, just stretch it out this way. Now, the woman who I told you about, Gina B. Silkworks, and the Silkworks is her business, not her name, I don't think. But I'm going to take and I'm going to run this over beeswax. Because make it easier on yourself. Because that's a lot of yarn, a lot of length to deal with. So, and then, you know, once you run it through the beeswax, what really makes it work is taking your nice warm hand and running it slowly over the thread that you just ran through the beeswax. And, oh, you're welcome. And Bonnie, yeah. Oh, okay, give it a jiggle. Now, see, I needed that. But the warmth of your hand and the friction on the thread melts the beeswax into the threads. And that is nice. Okay, so now, let me see. I need here just a nice, whoops, come on, needle. A nice size head on the needle. And I always lick the end of the thread. I don't know if you do too, and I now have it threaded. Okay. Since you're dealing with it, this is the biggest problem of the whole thing, is dealing with all this long piece. But just try to keep it, with just that much from the end. Try to keep it as close to folded in half as possible. Now I'm going to bring the camera back down and show you how easy this is. If you watch this and you go to Gina's YouTube tutorial, you'll be making one of these tonight. All right, I'm going to lay the floss on my fingers. Then I'm going to take and put this ring on top of the floss. And see how I'm holding that floss? Oh, thank you. I love learning stuff. Learning's fun. You're just going to take the needle and go in from the front to the back, holding this, keeping that thread that way. Because by doing this, guess what? You're making a blanket stitch. Okay? You're making a blanket stitch. Now, I probably go the opposite way that she does because I'm left-handed. So you go any way you want. But what I've done is taken that little thread tail and put it in the direction that I'm going to be stitching so that it's really tied in good. Okay? Now I'm going to go under. I've got to keep this back here. I'm going to go under, in through the middle, and pull all of this thread. And when I pull it up, see how it's got that loop? I keep the tail over here. Keep the tail there. And then I pull snugly, and I've got a buttonhole stitch. Now I'm going to do that again because I don't want to lose the tension here. So I always keep this behind me. I go in from the front, out the back of the ring, And that way, when I pull it up, it'll be a buttonhole stitch. And what that ends up doing is making a nice little ridge along the back. But what I'm doing right now is trying to make sure that I've got that tail well anchored. I do not want this thing to come unraveled. Always keep that the thread behind you that way, so that when you come through the front to the back, it makes, see how it makes the loop? You don't even have to think about making the loop, because as long as everything's in the right place, it does it by itself. Okay, I pull it snug. Now that's pretty well anchored. So what I'm going to do now is I can go ahead and you can decide how many stitches you want to trim the tail. But go ahead and trim off that tail, okay? So now, you just keeping that thread over that way and coming in here to do the stitch. This is kind of like some of you that when you get ready, laying stitches on for knitting or crocheting. Okay, it's kind of the same thing. And now you see why you don't want to just use any old thread, because you want to be able to fill up the ring. And let me see if you can you see that little ridge right there? Yes. And you know what? I will try to be on Saturday's sit and stitch, and if anybody wants to try this, I'll help you out on that, and you can ask me questions easily because we talk during it. You don't have to type, and I can show you what I'm actually doing. So anybody, if this just gets you interested and you want to learn more Saturday, that's a great idea. Keep the thread there. Come through the front. See, go through the front. Come out the back. And it makes that nice little ridge. So you do this a zillion jiggy times. All right. Now, I'm going to put this down for now and go to this one. And here's that long 4 yards. And you know, I think you could just do 2 yards and then retie and weave through. I'll show you that in just a moment. Okay, so here is one done in pink. And I wish I had that blue one down here. I don't know where I put it. Okay, and you see the nice little ridge? All right. Now, this is called casting. We are casting the thread onto the button mold. The ring is called the button mold, and now we are casting the thread on, okay? So you just pull, whoops, let me get that out of the way. It'll pull in everything. Come on. I might need to wax this again. This is not acting like it's waxed enough. Okay, let me wax this real quick again. And try to get real beeswax. It'll last forever. But if you get something that's not real beeswax, it has a higher melting temperature, and it just doesn't work as well. And you know me, I love saving money, but if it's not going to work, then you really haven't saved anything. Okay, but see how it wants to get tangled? I mean, it's amazing. This DMC floss is just trying to make my day hard. So actually, if I were sitting down watching TV, if I wasn't in such a rush, it probably wouldn't be happening quite so much. There's nothing like having a camera in front of you to make you feel like, help. All right. Well, I thought I got the knot out. Okay. I'm just cutting this one. And just the very little end strings kind of got tangled around. There we go. I got that puppy out. All right. So I hopefully have, let me put a little bit more wax on it. Now I wouldn't wax a metallic. I guess you could. I would try to do the thread heaven on the metallic. I just don't want to make the metallic dull. So, all right. Now, okay. All righty, here we go. Are we ready? Sorry, guys. Oh, is Bonnie leaving or is Adele leaving? Oh, good. Okay, have a good day, Bonnie. All right, so we have this over here, and you're pulling it in. Okay, let me see. I want to show you the actual part. That's where I needed the blue one from upstairs. I had them all done at different stages so that I could more quickly show you how it was done. Let me, okay, hold on. All right, maybe while I'm showing you, I'm trying to think of how I won't bore you to tears by doing this, but maybe I can just quickly, let me try to quickly get a few more things done, and then I'll show you whether I'm totally done or not. Okay, but I love the look, and when you have time, when you're doing it for yourself, and you have time to keep everything neat and tidy, and not pick up stray projects. And wait till I show you that one. That one's fun. That's where Deb started adding the bling. Okay. So I've only got just a few more little to do. And the woman on the tutorial, does it so fast. You can tell she's made a bunch of these. And when you have a nice clear workspace, it makes it easy. You don't get hung up on everything. Okay, let's see. Just a couple more. And you try to keep them pretty tight. That's the thing. Every once in a while, stop what you're doing and push them tight, okay? Because you want it well covered. All right, so let me quickly just do a couple more of these. Okay, so then the next stage is called what they call flicking. And flicking is where you turn the ridge. And back in a classically made Dorset button, the ridge could most likely got turned to the back. Like this is called flicking, and you just flick it to the back, and there's the ridge. You hide the ridge. But I love the ridge. I think it gives a really pretty look. So I want to leave my ridge showing. Let me get this little tail piece cut again. All right, so now here goes the last stitch, the last of the casting, the last of the casting. So what you're going to want to do now is make sure that all these stitches are tight down and in line, and they won't separate later, okay? So to do that, you just run your needle and thread under the beginning part of the casting. You run it through and then pull it, okay? Oops, come on. What is getting tangled here? This thing wanted to knot again. Am I doing something wrong with this dumb stuff? Maybe the age of it makes it more easily tangly. I think it's just because I'm using such a long piece. But, oh, come on. And I haven't done cross stitch in 20 years, so I'm not used to working with DMC floss. In fact, now if I use it, it's just to do in the art quilting to embellish. But come on. I'm trying to be in a good mood, but it's really giving me a fit. Okay, hold on. You know what I'm going to do again? I'm going to have to cut it. It's like trying to get all those little threads to leave each other alone. I'm just going to... Oh, I can't. Okay, so I have to cut it from here. I had to make sure I knew what side to cut because I didn't want to cut the wrong one and my bead would be without. Okay, so I was trying to get this through, and now I know it wouldn't go through because it had a knot. So, here we go. I'm pulling, and in fact, hold on 1 second. All right, so I'm going to pull this together. And this connects one side of the ring to the other. And since that got a little loosened up because I was dealing with the knot, I'm going to do a few more. And it's like burying the thread, so to speak, when you've done that before. Okay, so now I'm going to pull this through. I think I needed to wax this thread better. All right, now you've got the casting on. This is what I'm going to do. Oh, okay, thanks for letting me know that. All right, so now what you're going to do is you're going to take and you are going to put the thread behind, picture a clock. You're going to do 12 midnight to 6 p.m. Okay? Then, so you come behind, you go over and back to the back. Now we're going to do 7 p.m. and 1 p.m. Then we're going to do 8 and 2 and 9 and 3 and 10 and 4 and 11 and 5. Okay? You see how I've done that? Just think of the hands of a clock. Now what I'm going to do is come up over here because the front and the back don't match. They're a little off from the way we wrapped it. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to pull it through. Then I'm going to go across the other side and try to make the threads come to the right place. Okay, I want to tighten the threads to one central point, and I do that by doing opposites, okay? And I did the stitch I just did, those threads could easily have popped up. Now I'm going to come up here in this one, and I'm going to go across to the other side. Now let me make sure I've got the threads in the right place. I think I do. Okay. And you're just trying to tame the threads by taking these 3 stitches. Now I noticed this when I was making my blue one. I tend to have a hard time sometimes keeping these stitches in the center, and you want them in the center as much as possible. So you may have to use your fingernails a little bit on each side. Keep this in the center. Does that make sense? What does it remind you of? A dream catcher. Ah! Now see, I've never made one, but that makes sense. Now I'm looking and these are a little messy. So I'm going to come up through this one like this. And then I'm going to come down. Let's see, in between these, yeah, on the front and back. And that's going to separate these, okay? I bet you this is, now that you say it, I'm thinking you're right. I've never made one, but that does remind me, it looks like that. And see, that's not quite in the center as much as I'd like it, but it may, I'm still new at this. Okay. So now you've got the centers. Well, actually, I could use one more here because you want these separated and secured for the next step. So I'm going to come up one more time through here and then go down through here. And this will kind of sort out the spokes. It kind of matches them back up. See how now they're in line. The spokes are in line now. All right. But I wish this was a little bit more in the middle, but it's hard to make it. It's hard to make it in the middle, but I'm hoping I'll get better with practice. All right. So now, that's why I warned y'all first today. I can stay here longer because I really want you to feel like when you leave that you know what we're doing. All right. So now what you're going to do is you're going to come up from behind. Okay, come up from behind. Boy, this wants to get tangled a lot. All right. Okay. Come up from behind. Go over 1, 2 spokes. And come up. Wait a minute. Go down. Go straight down. Go over 2, go straight down, come back 1, come back up. Then, 1, 2. Go down over here with 2 and come back up in between 1. And what you're doing with these stitches is you're just making a full night, Nadine, honey. Take good care, sweetheart. I love our Nadine. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, go down here. And then go back one of them and come back up. And by doing this, you're going to make like a weave in between the stitches to fill in the background till you end up with a solid button. Okay? So, I didn't quite do that right. If you miss one of the things, just take it out and do it again. All right, so now, because you have a front spoke and a back spoke, and you want to make sure they're connected. So I come back 1, and then you go 2. All right, and you will do this until you have totally filled up the center, and you just keep going around and around till it's filled up. Now, she made a good point on her video, and that was somebody thought, well, gosh, if you've got some of this thread left over, should you use that to put it on the outfit, the ends, or wherever you're going to put it, what sweater or whatever? She said no, because what if somebody cut that thread or broke that? Then all of this would come untangled. So you are going to, when you're all done with this, you'll weave it through to make sure it's really tight and lost in there. And then you'll use separate thread to sew it on. So don't try to save time or do a shortcut. But anyway, so pretty much I'm hoping you can now, yeah, you can. See the stitches? And so it's going to be really pretty because they're just going to keep spiraling around and around. And then when it's all filled up, then you run your thread underneath some of these to hide it and cut it off. And then you've got a button. Now, for the bling, I want to show you this. There's all kinds of ways. Whoops, I didn't want to lose those. There's all kinds of ways to add bling in life, and I'm all about adding bling. Now let me see if I can get this untangled. And if you're not taking it up and downstairs and from this place to that place, it probably won't tangle as badly. Let me get it untangled. All right. And what I was thinking, when you do the casting, what if you just used enough of, I know that you don't want to have a knot in the middle of casting. So what if you put 2 yards on, did your casting, and then got another 6 strands on it to do the actual stitching around? I think it would work. Hi, Alexis. All right, now here we go. I'm going to show you how to put beads on them. Okay, so I'm going to hold the thread here, and then I'm going to come through and do that blanket stitch edging. Okay, and this is where it gets tricky too, because you don't want the threads to hang up on the beads. But I want to have some more, since the beads take up space, let me do at least one more of the casting on before I add the bead. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm going to do one more still, and then I'll put the bead on. This is something, Alexis, I think you would love it. Okay. Whoops, I didn't hold that yarn back there. Hold on. If you let go of it, then it won't do the buttonhole stitch. Okay, here we go. So you hold this thread there. You come in over here and oops. Keep that finger there. You know what? It didn't do it again. I think that I must have been doing it the other direction. Oh, no. What did I do wrong? Hold on. I will figure this out. I think I have to do this. Yeah, I somehow did not have it. Okay. All right, so somehow I let go of that. All right, so now I've got this there, and I'm almost to this other next bead, and there's room to put a bead right there. So I've pulled it all the way through. I'm going to take my needle. I'm going to pick up one of these beads and slide it. You've got to make sure that the bead is big enough to go on the yarn, past the needle, and slide down the thread. This is tangled again. I have never. Now upstairs, I didn't have this constant problem, but I think it's because I was really concentrating. All right, here we go. So I'm going to slide the bead down. Do not tangle on me. Did it just tangle? I think I am never going to go back to cross stitch again because I don't want to deal with this floss. Okay, let me pull this up. I'm determined not to cut it one more time. Okay, let's see. If I can get this big enough, I can get the end out and we're all free. There we go. We're free. All right, there goes the bead. Push the bead down. Okay, so let me hold it right. The bead is in place. I put the thread back here. I come through over here. And it makes the blanket hole stitch, and I pull it down nice and snug. Okay? So isn't that, I need more wax? I think you're exactly right. So now what I'm going to do, then at this point, I'm going to do, the wrap. And you come from the back to the bottom to the top. Okay? So you're going to wrap starting on the back and come up. And you know what? These beads kind of make it real handy. You don't have to think of the clock face anymore because you just kind of go up and down between each bead and it'll hold them into place and everything. So those beads might be nice. And this, I just wanted a bead that would show up. I wanted red thread, and I thought, well, what is opposite red? Well, green. All right, so I've done all my wrapping. There is a circle through all of that. So now I'm going to come up here, come up where I know the spoke should be. Okay, come up here, and then I'm going to go back down opposite. So I think, or should it be here? I think it should be right here. You're just trying to decide where to divide those spokes so that you end up with well-defined spokes. And it's working. I'm doing, this one's coming along good. And you know what? It's like with anything. Now these look like they don't know where they want to be, so I think this is a good place to come up. They're a little confused. Then I'm going to go right down opposite, which, I'll say this one. And this is just to anchor all those wraps, okay? All right, and I'm going to come up between this right here and go down here. Okay, so I'm hoping you're seeing this. All right, so there you go. And I think there's one more place I should do one. You just can kind of, after you're used to doing it, you can kind of look and see where it looks like they need to be drawn together. And because of the way you wrap them, understand that the back threads don't necessarily line up with the front. And what you're doing with this is trying to get them to line up. All right. So now, here we are at that point. And then it's just a matter, I'm going to just do one to show you. You come up here. Come up here. You go 1, 2, and go down. Okay. Then you come back 1 to come up. And you go, count 1, 2 to go down. But guess what I'm going to do? I have a bead left. I've got more upstairs, but I'm going to put a bead on it. And I'm going to see if I can do a little few beads as I go through these next steps. So let me see. I want the bead to stay on top. Let me see if I can pull this in without it getting too confused. Come back, bead. It helps to pull the bead. Oh, hold on a second. Let me see. Yeah, pull the bead all the way down the thread before you do it, because then that way you actually are placing the bead where you want the bead to be. So let me pull the thread through so the bead's at the bottom. Okay. There we go. Oh my gosh, this could be a cute little Christmas wreath. So I pulled it down here. So I'll go back 1. So if I go back 1, I would come up in this one. And then I would go over 2. So I would go down here. And then it's just a matter of where do you want the beads to be? Because I come back 1 right here. And then I go 1 string, 2 string, and I come back down in here. So there we go. So I just thought you would see. Now you can see how you can make this into a pin. It doesn't even have to be a button. And if you look at the page from Catherine Redford, look how she wove it like a, like a basket, and then made it look like flowers. Here she did weaves, and I mean the beads, and they look like they're in a swirl. Look at how, so she didn't do the spokes all the way around. She did enough to pull together. She did what, 8 for top, 4 at the bottom, and turned them like into a fan. And then when you just weave them back and forth, you fill in. I mean, she really did some beautiful work. Looks like she did weaving mostly from the back. And look at these tiny ones she did. So her name, once again, Catherine Bradford. And she has a site you can go visit. She's a teacher for hire. And just a little bit more, I wanted to show you a man's suit and show you that it had frogs. So those were made buttons, and it had like a frog closure. For a long time, they had metal hooks and eyes. Zippers didn't come around until the mid-1800s or later 1800s. Here are some early buttons, early buckles, and look at this toggle. That's leather and either wood or tooth. I'm not sure, but this is a very early closure with leather and either wood or tooth. Here is let me see. This probably dates from 18th century, and look at the early hooks and eyes for the closures. Take care. Take care, Hetty. Or Kim, whoever's. Oh, y'all are so sweet. I just love y'all to death. Then I was going to look how they tied this gown, because ties were very often used. Here is the toggle again. Probably a piece of the tip of the horn and leather and rope to make a toggle. So, the history of clothing and what they could use, and not having knit fabric like this. In fact, some of the earliest uses of quilting was to make body armor, because they would take multiple layers of fabric, quilt it together, and that way it was more likely to resist knives and swords. So, I love all of this. And just remember the name Janet Arnold. And she was a wonderful woman who just really studied and reproduced all of the historic clothing that has been saved in the Victoria and Albert Museum. So, and there are some people who study it, and they're allowed special entry in to study and record and draw, and you can't take photos because you don't want the light to denigrate the fabric and the threads. So it's just a fascinating subject. And understand something too. You get a skewed view of history if you only look on the surface. The everyday clothes, the clothes that the everyday you and I people wore, got used up. I mean, used up. Mending was a huge business. And so the outfits you see, even on the cover of the Janet Arnold book, the ones often that survived were the rich people's outfits. They didn't have to do anything but look pretty in them. But the everyday working clothing got used up till there was nothing left. So it's really rare to get to see what people really wore. So don't get too confused if you see all this beautiful clothing. No, that was only the 1%. That was only the cream of the bucket. So understand that everything that we would have worn, there aren't many remnants of. So, all right. Well, that's it for today's history of clothing and buttons and all of that. But thank you for letting me show you that. Like I said, the older I get, the more I value the work women have done for all the thousands of years to keep their families clothed and fed and warm. And one of the best ways to celebrate women is to celebrate and learn what they had to do to keep things going. So, all right. So now I've been talking to you about what these crumb quilts, because I don't know, I'm excited. And it's just a matter of taking scraps and putting them together, because a scrap is anything that's a little too big to feel good throwing it away. You know what I mean? It's like, well, no, I could use that for something, but what? So let me pull out. But a scrap, it's too little to be able to fold and put in a drawer. You'd lose it, but it's too big to really want to toss it. So we all have scrap bags. What do we do with our scraps? Okay. So I just thought I would pull out some scraps, and I've got an idea for you. I have an idea, and I want to pull out multiple colors and all of that. What I did, and most of you probably know this, I went on my EQ8 program, and I designed a crumb quilt, okay? And here is just one of many of the orientations that you can use to make this quilt. And there are hundreds of ways. I designed a block, a 6-inch block, and your crumbs are all in here. Then there's a nice bright white spacer, and then whatever the background of your choice. Now let me show you what I have chosen. Oh, and I wanted to tell you the other thing with the Dorset button. When you wrap the threads opposite and go around to make the spokes, that's called laying out. I wanted to make sure I gave you the terms. So that's flicking, casting, laying out. I wanted to really give you the details of that. Okay. I've decided, I saw this somewhere and just decided all the colors with a nice tan neutral. Okay? So, if you want this free pattern, I will email you the file and you can print it out and use it all you want, because it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy, simple. So then once you get this pattern, yes. So once you make this pattern, oh, she said way back in the day, boots were yes. Oh my gosh, they slept in them. Yes. I mean, boots were something you didn't often get. And they were a wealthy man's thing. I'll need to look back because I don't want to miss anything you say. I love when you give me input. Okay, that's why the cowboy sleeps with their boots on. Yep. So here is the block. We're going to do this the easiest way possible. I mean, raise your hand if you have scraps, because everybody has scraps. Okay. So when you print this out, okay, and I keep cheap, this is kind of thin paper. I like cheap paper for paper piecing. And so I always tell people to go along on your paper piecing and to fold on the line. Let me, hold on just a second. My fingernails aren't as strong as they used to be, so I like using a bone folder. I used to be able to do my fingernails, but I'm getting old. Okay, use a bone folder and fold on each line. Okay? Or use your fingernail if you're nice and young and have nice young fingernails. Okay, so now I'm going to fold on this line. What this does, when you fold the paper piecing, what this does is it shows you where to put your fabric because you do your sewing. You pin your fabric on this side and then you turn it over to sew, but it helps you see where the lines are. But also, at some point, you've got to take this paper off, and by folding it, it makes it much easier to tear. It'll make it easier to tear in the end. So fold on every line you see, except the outside. You don't need to do the outside, unless you just want to. And you may wish to go ahead and cut off the excess, but I would leave at least 1/4 of an inch beyond. I just leave it here because it's more dramatic than when you trim it. I love when you trim paper piecing and it reveals the beautiful block. That's one of those moments. Okay, so now I'm almost done. And if I wasn't using a bone folder, I would fold each line twice, one way and then the other. But using the bone folder, it really creases it beautifully. And this is not really a piece of bone, it's just plastic. But that's what the term, was a bone in the old days. All right, so now I have folded every line, okay? And let me get my rulers. And we're going to start this. I'm going to show you just how easy this is. Whoops. Okay, let me see if that will help turn it. Okay. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, this didn't get numbered. All right. I always start in the middle. So what I'm going to do, that was a pretty one, but it was messy. Okay, I'll start with this piece. The first piece you put on, I'm getting as close to the middle as I can. I take a nice thin pin and I pin this. Some people take a little glue stick and glue down the first piece, but try to keep that pin in the middle so you don't sew over it, okay? Then I'm going to take another piece and another one of my scraps, and I'm going to lay it right here, okay? Lay it where it kind of meets up that. It's okay if it's a little long. Whoops, I'm sorry, I'm doing this on the wrong side. I do this every time. All right, so I pick one of these middle ones and I put it on, and because I've folded it, I can see where the lines are to know if I've placed it right. And then I put the pen directly in the middle. And if let's say you want to check and see, what you can do is hold it up to the window and the light behind it will show you if you're in the right place. Then this is one of the reasons to fold, because it shows you the line. All right, now I'm going to bring you up here, and hold on one second. I'm trying very carefully not to damage the camera like I've been known to do. All right, here we go. Oops, let me see if I go this way. Just a little. Whoops, no, okay. All right. Well, let me see if I can do this. All right, come on, silly thing. Okay. All right. I'm so afraid of breaking this camera again that now. Ugh. Okay. Well, I'll do it the best I can. All right. Let me see. If I lean it up a little bit more. Okay. This is better. All right. All right. Here we go. All right. So now I lay this, the edges of the fabric meeting, then you flip it back over and you're going to put it in your sewing machine. And the first thing you do is turn down your sewing stitch because you need the smallest, not the smallest, you need like 1.9, okay? And the reason you want a nice tight sewing stitch is because when you pull out the fabric, you want the stitches to hold. If the stitches are too big, when you go to pull out the fabric, boom, you go a quarter of an inch past the line when you are sewing, okay? You start early, you finish late. Now, I have a little excess thread here. I'll show you how I'm going to handle that. Okay. I'm just going to take these stitches and trim that, scissors, and trim this. But let me show you again. Okay. Then I'm going to take this and I'm going to lay it out. I can now remove this pin. I'm going to lay it out and I'm going to take my bone folder. I'm going to take the curved side and I'm going to do a little press of this. All right. Now, to prevent from having to use your scissors and sewing, what I'm going to do is come in here, okay? I'm going to come in here and fold it on the next line. Okay, so I'm folding it on the next line, and then I'm going to trim it a quarter of an inch away from that line because I need to leave some seam allowance. And now I can trim that. Okay, so this is just a simple reminder I've shown, and everybody has paper piecing lessons online. So they're real easy to find. I'm going to take my next fabric and I'm going to lay it. Oops, this is really giving me a fit. Okay, I'm going to lay the edges to where they match. Actually, I want to go back to this one. All right, hold on one second. What I like to do is put the fabric in the middle, start the first piece, then put one on this side, put one on that side, then this side, then that side, back and forth and back and forth. And that's how I've numbered them for you to do it. Now this is pretty good. I didn't really need to trim this up, but just please remember to always leave a quarter of an inch there to line your fabric up. So now my next piece of fabric is going to go right here. And this is such a great use of crumbs because, okay, and I'm holding it underneath there. All right, let's wait. This line is the next line I'm sewing. I double check to make sure all my fabric is laying flat. My stitches are still shorter. And I start early, finish late. Okay. Okay, now I take this off and take my bone folder and give this, whoops, I'll do it on the, and give this a press. I wish, yeah, I do have a wooden iron. The wooden iron actually works better on the fabric. The bone folder is perfect on paper, but look at this. Isn't that amazing? The bone folder was trying to kind of bunch it and crease it, but the wooden iron does a really good job. All right, so now what I'm going to do is pull this back at the next line so I know where to cut this loose. Okay. I'll know where to cut this loose, leaving 1/4 of an inch. Now, let's say you don't feel comfortable doing that, then add a 1/4 ruler. You can butt it right up against the fold and then run your cutter right up against the ruler. And they have 2 sizes of this ruler. They have the 12-inch blue and the 6-inch yellow. Okay? So now we come back to this side and we add another strip. And let's find a good vibrant color. Well, this might be pretty. And I think it should be, if you're not sure it's going to be wide enough, then just hold it. It's going to go right here, and that will be. All right. And soon I'm going to get ready and show you how the other 2 pieces go on. So I hold it firmly there, turn it over. If you want to, you can pin it. You just have to be careful that you don't sew through the pin. All right, so I start early and I stitch long. If I finish late. Okay, now let me go ahead. With crumbs, you know, you'll have to have your scissors and you give it a trim like that. And then you flip it over and use your wooden iron. Okay. So there we go. So now I started with this, then I did this, then I did this one. Whoops, I'm not showing. Okay, started with this. I did this one, now this one. So the next one's going to go back over here. Okay. Let me, oh, I don't think I want that color. Oh, here's a pretty one. Ah, this will be pretty. So I place this. Now, I already checked and made sure that was 1/4 of an inch. So I am good. I have too much right here, but everything I'm trying to show you. So let's see. Okay. Yes, it is. It does feel backwards. It really does feel backwards. And that's why every time I do it, if I haven't done it just recently, it's like it takes me a minute to kind of get it square, what I'm supposed to do. All right, so I'm going to put this under the needle. And then I'm going to lift it up and make sure everything is laying nicely. Okay, it looks good. I don't like using pins because I'm so afraid of cutting them, especially when the pieces get very small. So I run this. Okay. All right. Now, I think after this, I can go ahead and show you. Let me see. The block ends here, so I can give it a good trim here. Then my wooden iron is here. And I'll give this. Now you can use your regular iron, but just since I'm talking to you in front of the camera, I don't want to keep moving out of screen. All right, but let's say you've got all your pieces now, because I'm gonna go ahead and let me cut this where it's supposed to be. So it's supposed to be right here. And I will add that 1/4 of an inch by bumping this up to the folded paper and then running right along the edge. There we go. Okay, so here are all my stripes, okay? Then I've pre-cut some divider strips and I've pre-cut triangles. And you notice they're quite a bit larger than what I need. And there's a reason for that. Because I always make the mistake of stopping too soon. Let me see. Whoa, I wasn't supposed to sew that there. I was supposed to sew it over here. So now let me come over here with a strip. I'm going to sew this to even this up a little. Looks odd. All right, so put it under my sewing machine and make sure, yep, that it's laying nice and flat and smooth under there. And then stitch it. And that's the thing, is just trying to stay focused on, okay, what side am I supposed to be on now? Okay, and let me do this. All right. And I know I don't need it any longer than this, so now I'm done with that. Pretend I've got the last little couple done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this and put it pretty side down. And to know where to lay it, what I'm going to do is take the pieces I've got, fold it back to this line right here, okay? This is the next line that needs to be sewn. You always go to the next one. Then that one will be sewn later. But now if you notice, because I started early and stopped early, it's sewn to the paper. So you just pull that off. No problem at all. Now I get my add a quarter ruler, put it up against this folded paper right here, like this. Then I take my cutter and I trim it up. That is wonderful. Okay. So now I have a nice, smooth line. Sorry, Mark came home and the dogs always get so happy when Daddy comes home. Dogs, hush. Now, since this is wider and longer, I'm going to go ahead and pin this in place because I know that that pin will not be under my needle. So I'm going to take and just put 2 pins and keeping it well away from where I'm going to stitch. Then I put it under the machine and I sew on the very next line, not this line, but the line that butts up with all the other pieces, okay? And then I stitch along the line, stitch a little bit beyond, okay? And then I'm going to come in here, pop these out. I didn't realize I had a black bobbin in. Okay, now take my wooden iron and smooth this down. Okay, right? Then I'm going to flip it back over. It's all in paper piecing. It really is easy, but it's constant back and forth. And you just kind of, that's just the nature of the beast. But boy, does it make having sharp points and smooth edges, it makes them so easy. So I do like that. All right. Now, this is nice and neat. Pretend I've got all these filled out. I come and get one, whatever color of the complementary color that you're going to use in this triangle. You don't have to use tan. It's just something I saw once that I went, oh, that looks so smart. Okay, so I put it on here. I line it up with the line, the white fabric line. I'm just going to put 1 pin in there just to help me get it turned over. Come back to the sewing machine. Now I sew on this line. All right, so stitch this. All right, stitch this, take out the pin, and fold this back, and use my wooden iron. You know what I'm going to do? Let me turn on. Now, you're probably wondering, how am I going to fill in these parts? I'm going to have to carefully cut this loose so I can fit the other ones in, okay? All right. Now I'm giving it a good press And I'm going to show you the next thing I do. You might think, oh, well, she's going to trim it up. Not yet. Not yet. Okay, so I just gave it a press. I'm going to put a pin right here, but not too close to where I think the block edges are. But I'm going to put one pin just to hold this neutral in place. Now I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to make my stitches very big stitches now. Okay, I'm about 3.2 maybe. Okay, then I'm going to come to this outside line and I'm going to baste stitch all the way around the edge. And you might wonder why I'm doing that. Because it just makes the blocks easier to handle until you have sewn them together. Because eventually you're going to sew them together and it keeps edges from flipping up, from making a mess. I would be afraid to cut this block out if I didn't have this stitching done. Okay, so now I've done just a nice big old basting stitch around. Now what I can do is, because I know that everything is protected, I can come in with my trimmer and trim off the edges. And I forgot to decide whether I was going to leave a seam allowance around that or not. Okay. So here is the last one. All right. And then when I turn it over, there is my block. So it's a pretty straightforward, easy block. It doesn't use... Oh, okay. Yeah, the big stitches, because that way you don't have to worry about it later. And everything stays in place. But, so anyway, I think it's going to be a cute block. And I want to get ready and show you some of... And these, save those. Because, I don't know if you noticed, but the little pieces... This is made for all kinds of size crumbs. See that little teeny piece? And let's say you've made your crumbs and they're not exactly in this shape. It doesn't matter. I just wanted as much color over on this side as I can get. Each block is going to be different because I'm going to give myself the luxury of just picking a piece and going. I am not going to stress over this at all. And then this can now be a scrap for another day, for a different quilt. All right. So I'm sorry I didn't get these put in, but you can, at least it gives you something to look at. And it's going to be really interesting, I think, when it all comes together, because some of my scraps will have brown in them. I'm going to put some black. Any color can go, any color at all can go into here. And I feel like that the white piece in the middle gives it such a clean look. So, all right, let me push this out of the way. We're going to go to a quick show and tell. And I want to show you some of the 22 ways that I found to put that block together to give it an entirely different looking quilt. And you'll be surprised at just how different it will look. All right. Yeah. Yeah, you think I should have left a 1/4 inch? That's what I'm thinking too. So I'll have to, oh, you know what? Guess what? This one has the 1/4 inch. Well, let me see what that was doing. Okay, I think I'm going to have to go, let me measure this real quick. Hold on, guys. Because I want to know, if I'm going to tell you something, I want it to be right. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. These, I'm going to have to alter this. It's got to have a 1/4 inch all the way around it. So thank you, Alberta. You were exactly right. It needs to have a quarter of an inch. So what I need to do is I'm going to put a new file on the site, or have this one as the main one. So even though this was nice, I don't want to put this out here with you because it doesn't have the quarter of an inch. This one has the quarter of an inch. Okay? So I should have, Alberta, you're exactly right. Thank you for catching that. Because that's what's the most important thing, is I want you to have the best information. All right. And it should be a very easy block to do. All right. Let's go and look at see your quilts and to see the rest of that. Oh, and man, I can't wait for this week's Art Quilt Thursday because we're doing the Foggy Woodland and it's so much fun. Okay, here is Alexis. Oh, yes, I finally showed you this wonderful one she just finished that we had to keep it mum until it was shown on this site that she had it displayed on. But isn't that wonderful? I love all of her buttons and beads, and she just has such a creative mind. So that, I think it's called Hoyt, too, if I remember right. Excellent, Alexis. Excellent. All right, let's see what else we have. Miss Bonnie and her tumbler. I love her tumbler flag quilt. Wonderful. And then look at this wonderful quilt she's working on. I love all the colors, and I love the white in between. That's, you know what? That's like the crumb quilt we're doing. It just gives a nice, clean feel to it. So way to go. All right. Now let's see who else. Well, I'll tell you what. Let me run to the crumb quilt folder before we forget. Okay, here is one of the possibilities with that quilt. And what I'm doing is doing 6 across and 8 down. They're 6-inch blocks, so that's 48 6-inch blocks. And I've got more than enough scraps to fill that in. Now, and so here is the foundation piecing. This is when I first designed that block. How easy could it be? Because I knew I just wanted places to put all different kinds, sizes of crumbs. All right. Here, let me enlarge this and show you all the different designs you could make. And this is just, it's decided just by the way you turn each block. Look at all these. So, you know, one simple block, very, very simple. And look at all of the choices. And I love having the neutral because that's a great place to do some nice quilting. All right, let me find another page because I have 3 pages of options here. I think I came up with 22 options, and I could have continued. And if you can figure out some, send me your ideas or your photos, and I would love to see what you come up with. Okay, I've got one more page of options. Now, some of these, I was trying to see how I had them. I'm hoping you haven't seen all of these. So I was hoping you would like some of those options. Okay, now let's go back to show and tell. I think we're at Charlene. This is Charlene Lawson, who took a class from Bonnie Langenfeld. And look at this wonderful, wonderful quilt she made in that. I just love that. Wonderful. Bonnie Lawson. Bonnie Langenfeld is a great teacher, and Charlene Lawson did a great job on that quilt. Okay, Miss Dolores. Yes, I'm just going to go through these quickly. I had forgotten to remove these, but these are her wonderful grandkids at an archaeological camp, and her 12-year-old grandson making a quilt for his newest baby sister. All right, that was Miss Dolores. Diana Wright, she's been busy this week. She has a customer who wants quilts for twins. So she is busy. I just love that. I love the quilting with the great big loopy happy quilting. Love it. And here are the two together. She's such a hard worker. Let me tell you. Look at that. Isn't that just precious? Love, love, love it. All right. Then, here she's put the name on the back of one of them. How cool is that? That's beautiful, beautiful. Okay. And then her husband was out doing some landscaping, putting gravel up against the house to give a nice clean line. And it's important in Texas for you to keep that soil evenly moist because of the different subsoils they have there. But very nice. And I know he got pretty big blister on his hand doing all that work. But Marty's a hard worker too. Now look at this. Isn't that just charming? That is just precious. And I know those boys and that family is going to treasure those quilts. All right, and then the last picture of her landscaping work, but that really makes things nice and easy to trim, and he can just run the mower along, and because it gets very hot in Texas in the summer. You don't want to be out fiddling with stuff when it's over 100 degrees. I've got Edwin Nieces. I can't wait to see what she's done since then. I love the way she cut out the roses and put them on there, and the fabric she chose for the pot or the vase. That's wonderful, Edwinice. Or Edie, I think she might call herself. Okay. Miss Inger, I still haven't taken this out because it's such an enjoyable quilt, and what a charmer, especially during the summer. Wonderful. All right. Next is Miss Jeannie. Oh man, she has been so busy with her quilts, and this is so, whoops, not that big. This is so cute. A Scrabble game with all her family members' names. How cute is that? And then a quilt that she had to end up, this is something she had started long ago, came back to, and the background had gotten stained, so she cut it out and put it on a new background. I love that kind of ingenuity. I love this pillow she made. I think she made it for her husband. A chair cover she made, and her cute puppy dog. And all those pieces in that Scrabble quilt. That would be hard for me. I would have a hard time keeping them straight, but she does beautiful work. So way to go, Miss Jeannie. All right, Miss Jody. I might have even missed a new picture. She's working diligently on her creature from the Black Lagoon. I can't wait to see that. And then her most recent, I love her Dracula. And then her most recent she had completed was the Wolfman, and cannot wait to see the creature. And thank you to Miss Bonnie, I believe, or was it Susan, who sent her a picture of the mummy that she can use. All right, we had the pictures from Kathleen Kendall, which were lovely, of her garden. So y'all need to send me some new pictures so I can have some new show and tell. All right, because I would love to see what you're working on now, or your gardens, or whatever if you catch a big fish, we'd like to see that. Here's Miss Linda's wonderful birds. I just love all the things she makes. Look at this. And then she made it a companion. Isn't that neat? And I'm pretty sure that's felted. That's wonderful. And look at those little works of art. And she always has gifts for people. She's a very good soul. All right, let's see. Miss Marcia, I was so proud she made some fabric beads. Look at that fabric bead necklace. Way to go, Miss Marcia. Way to go. I tell you what, I love art and crafts because there's so much to be made. And here's Miss Patricia. Wait a minute. Nope, I think I might have got, you know what? I've got this same chest, or at least one that matches. Mine's like, what do they call the French ones that bow out? But I've got that same piece of furniture upstairs. I'll have to take a picture of it next week. Now, this is Melanie. That's right. This is Miss Melanie's. Now, I love what she's doing with her binding tool star. I love her landscape. Look at that. Great, great table runner. Love that quilt and her embroidery and her cute little puppy dog. I just love when you send me pictures of the things you do or put them on the website. And Miss Michelle's, I'm seeing spools everywhere. Alex Anderson's been doing a wonderful spool quilt and this summer, and it's just wonderful. Okay. Miss Nadine, she sent me some new things. Her works of art are amazing. So let me bring this up. She's not working in her sewing room because it's a little warm up there in the summer. But look at the work she's doing with stamps and paints. All kinds of things. Just beautiful works of art. Let me see. This one. Okay, let me make this bigger for you to see because they're just gorgeous. They're so magical. So way to go, Miss Nadine. You are a true artist, and we are serious about that. You are a true artist. Look at that. It looks like she might have some fabric and all different kinds of things put on that. Okay. What is this? Oh, this is Miss Nadine's vaccine photo. So in Germany, she got her vaccine done too. And I truly want to plead with you that if you have not, oh, those are dragons on the minarets. If you have not gotten your vaccination, please do it immediately. Other countries would love to have the vaccines that we have sitting and waiting for you. And right now, the people who are getting sick and dying are the ones who haven't been vaccinating. And the cases are up 70%. Please, it takes you at least 6 weeks to be totally protected. Please go start your vaccines right now. I wish there was something I could say that would magically make everyone get their vaccine. So please, it's so important. I'm not ready to lose you, and everybody needs to be protected. So this is some of her wonderful art I've shown you from the other week. All right, thank you, Miss Nadine. You are so talented. Talented. Okay, Patricia from Nova Scotia. You remember that she's working on this binding tool, star quilt. Okay. Then look at, she had fun and she went fabric shopping, and look, that is so much promise, so much potential. Isn't it yummy? I just love it. Mark doesn't understand what a pile of new fabric does for me. But let me tell you, it is a feeling like you can't imagine, isn't it? All right, so here are her balloon flowers. This is Miss Polly's, a daylily, and purple coneflower. But are you ready to see what she got for her birthday? This is what her husband got for her birthday. Isn't it a beauty? Oh my gosh. And you know, I'm a big fan of Jukies. I love my Juki machines. So isn't that wonderful? She's got a good husband. She needs to hang on to him. And look at this beautiful tartan quilt, a tartan plaid quilt she made. Isn't that wonderful? That is amazing. So, way to go, Miss Polly. We're still getting together. I promise. We're still getting together this week. All right, Miss Sarah and her beautiful little grandniece that she's raising. Isn't that beautiful? Gosh, I just love Miss Sarah. All right, now let's see. Susan. Yep, I need to get myself some new photos. I'll work on that this week. Okay, there we go. All right, I think this is it for photos. And we ran long, which I thought we would, and that's fine too. And whoa, hold on. Okay, I turned that camera real fast. All right, now let me get my light back on. All right, put this back. All right. So now you had a chance to see that with just scraps and a little bit of fabric, I think it only, of the tan color, I think it only takes 3/4 of a yard. And it says a little bit, in fact, in the package, in the email I'll send you, if you would like this pattern, there is a page that tells how much fabric you need. And it says that you need more of the white than I really think you need. But I will put that in there. But just know, I really don't think they're being... I think that when I did the pattern up, it kind of went wonky when it came to that. But there is... here it is. And it, of whatever, if you don't want to use tan, whatever you use for that, and then here's the white, and it says for the white 1.5 yards, but I can't imagine it takes, because the white is so narrow compared to the tan. Of the tan, it just says 3/4 of a yard. So I can't imagine, I don't think the white would take anything more than 1/2 a yard. So that and scraps, it's practically free. So anyway, I want to come on here, and I know, isn't she beautiful, that little girl dressed? She was going to see Disney on Ice, and she was ready. All right, I'm hoping... Let me see. Oh, yeah, I have a video on fabric beading, on paper beading. I love staying busy. I love staying busy. And in the evening when I sit to watch TV, I can't just sit there. If I do, I'm liable to eat or bite my fingernails. So I try to keep my hands busy. It keeps me out of trouble. All right, you guys, it is so good. And don't forget, I will make sure that this has the seam allowance on it for you. Before I send it to you, I'll go back on the website too and make sure that you have one that, because I really love it. I have no idea which way I am going to finish the design. And remember what I told you too, is just take a picture of the blocks, stand over them, take a picture, print it out on cardstock if you have it, or just regular fabric, cut them up, and then play with it like a puzzle. And that way you can just sit right in front of you, turn the blocks all different ways, and design your own. And I would love to see who comes up with the best layout. Okay? So the creature may be done this weekend. Yay! Oh my God, I love her work. Love it. And yesterday when we did our Jitsi thing, I was working on my Misty Woodland. That's another free pattern I'll send you. So all you have to do is say our time to quilt at TWC. Just send me an email saying, you can have as many patterns as you want. I know, isn't it exciting? We wait in anticipation for Jody's next quilt because they're so amazing. So, okay, our time to quilt at twc.com. And you can write me for either the Misty Woodlands quilt or this new crumb quilt, or both. I'll be glad to send them by email. Then you print it out and enjoy. Okay, everybody. Any other questions? Thank you, Diane57, for helping today. That was very nice. And there is our Patricia. Yay. I love our Patricia from Nova Scotia. Very talented lady. Michelle Lang is here. Hi, sweetheart. So if I've already mailed out your package, which I did yesterday morning on most of them, I will send you a tracking number. The other ones I'll try to get out this week, okay? So take good care of yourself. Kim, it was so great to see you back. And if I've mentioned your name or I've seen you twice, you'd like to join our group's IO, just send me an email at that email address, and I'll send you out an invitation. Write on your email whether you want membership or whatever pattern is. Make it very clear so I'll know what to send you. Okay, everybody, take good care. And I hope you have a great week. I'm hoping to start sewing with my granddaughter. She's into cosplay, and I can't wait to help her make some clothing. And I don't have a doctor's appointment this week. Thank goodness I get to stay home. So take good care of yourself. That's why I know where I'm going to get together with Polly this week. So take good care. So great to see all of you. Take good care of yourself. All right. Y'all are the best. Do something special for yourself. I'm going to do some summer crafting this week too. Can't wait. All right. Take good care. Bye-bye.